Welcome in, folks, to the Resene webinar, where today we are covering off a recap on industry environmental information. Main focus today is on New Zealand Green Building Council, HomestarV2 and Greenstar project requirements, and we'll also touch on specifying HomestarV2 and Greenstar projects as well. Now, anyone rewatching this webinar, this is a re-recording of the live version that we put out. Unfortunately, we had an issue with the audio on that version, so we've chosen to re-record it. All the information is the same as the live version. Right, we'll get straight into it. Today, I just wanted to recap on the environmental focus in the industry by the major players or major manufacturers. It's really just a reminder of how long we've been at it and how wide-ranging we are in the industry. We certainly won't cover everything here, as it would be a day-long webinar in itself to do that, so this really is just a quick recap. So while for many other industries the environmental push has come in recent times, in the paint industry, green is actually our normal and has been for many years. The major paint manufacturers in New Zealand have been focusing on environmental and sustainability issues for many years, with Resene the first to have environmental choice approved products in 1996. Now that's 25 years ago. We also introduced in 2004, so 17 years ago, VOC free paint products with Xylon Sheen. It's important to note as well, my intention here today is to give industry-wide information. Of course, you're going to see some Resene products on screen, but what I'm trying to do here today is give you some good wide industry information. I'm sure that other manufacturers have had VOC free or ultra low VOC products in their range for many years as well. In 2004, Resene introduced a PaintWise recycling program in conjunction with 3R, and along with that, our WashWise program, so washing out brushes and roller sleeves. And also in 2004, the focus started getting into responsible contracting as well, and our Resene Eco Decorator program was launched, where we partner with professionals in the industry who focus not only on quality but also on environmental factors. So you can see 2004, some 17 years ago, was a big year in the industry for environmental factors. And also since 2006, we've been partners with our very good friends at New Zealand Green Building Council, who are fantastic advocates for improving our homes and commercial buildings. So that just gives you a quick overview. There's many more factors in the environmental and sustainability area, but it just does show you that major paint manufacturers focus on all aspects of the industry and not just individual paint products alone. The one area I did want to touch on is our PaintWise recycling program. So the Resene PaintWise paint and packaging recycling program was launched in 2004 and led the way in the industry, with the other major manufacturers now also managing their paint take-back programs through 3R. To date, Resene's collected over 3 million packs, and of this 400,000 kg of steel has been recycled and over 200,000 kg of plastic. Over 500,000 litres of solvent-borne paint has been sent to solvent recovery, and over 250,000 litres of paint has been donated to cover graffiti and into other community projects. So there's a huge amount of packaging and paint product that would otherwise have gone to landfill or who knows where to be disposed of. So recycling programs are very interesting nowadays, as by human nature, we're kind of taking them for granted, aren't we? And maybe don't think twice about the commitment by organizations to implement them and keep them running. What I can tell you is that for a program like PaintWise, there's a massive commitment behind the scenes, both financially and operationally, with many obstacles to overcome to ensure that it's a success. I think we're all a little guilty when putting something in a recycling bin nowadays of not giving it a lot of thought to the commitment that that organization is putting into the program. So all that I ask is next time you pop something into any recycling bin, that you stop and give it some thought to the commitment that that organization is making to their industry and to our wider environment. Major manufacturers have had ultra-low and zero VOC products available for many years. Just put a few of ours there on screen. Resene broadwall wallboard sealer, zero VOC since 2005. Resene ceiling paint, VOC of 1 gram per litre since 2008. Resene clinical coat, VOC 4 grams per litre since 2005, and Xylon sheen, zero, obviously zero VOC since 2007. So you can see that they've been in the range for many, many years. A number of these products will be used on your projects anyway. Certainly Resene broadwall wallboard sealer and ceiling paint are products that would be specified on any specification that we put out into the market. And Resene clinical coat is a product that would be specified in medical or retirement care type facilities. When we talk about ultra low VOC products, that the requirement is to be below 5 grams per litre. One of the reasons that we can't just take VOC completely out of paint products, and we have touched on this in previous webinars, is that VOC content in many, many paint products is there for performance, so flow and leveling and the actual performance of your paint product, the durability and abrasion resistance and all the components. So it's not an easy thing just to take VOC content completely out of paint. We certainly need to make sure that when we are doing that, that the paint product itself is going to perform to a very good level. Some of our traditional solvent-based alkyd and urethane products are now being released as waterborne hybrid versions. Just an example of a few there on screen. Resene Luster Glow, which is our traditional solvent-based semi-gloss enamel for joinery, interior joinery, now released as a hybrid waterborne version. What we're doing there is utilizing the benefits of the traditional alkyd technology, but in the hybrid waterborne version. And also Resene Uracryl, our 400 series was our solvent-borne, or still is in our range, our solvent-borne 2-pack urethanes. We now have in our range a waterborne version of that, Resene Uracryl 800 series. Resene strongly believes that it's better to apply a high quality product that will last than apply an inferior product that will break down faster, impacting on the environment and requiring more frequent maintenance and repainting. So at Resene, we certainly won't be replacing products in our range unless the new waterborne versions are the equivalent of or exceed the performance of the product that they are replacing. We are going to cover maintenance or maintenance cycles in a future webinar and how they can certainly impact on the life cycle and the life and sustainability of your buildings. Okay, we just wanted to recap quickly on green or eco labeling as well in the industry. As every now and then a new green label from overseas pops up somewhere and it's the supposed next best thing. The reality is that for paint in New Zealand, there's one eco label that will generally meet all of your requirements, and it's the one eco label you should always look for, and that is, of course, Environmental Choice. Environmental Choice is New Zealand's only government-owned and endorsed Type 1 eco label. All of the major manufacturers have Environmental Choice products nowadays, and they will always be waterborne, low, ultra low, or zero VOC products. You can see there on Environmental Choice New Zealand's website, they list who has them. So Resene, Dulux, Paint Plus, and Wattle all have Environmental Choice products. So also important to note that certification is required for the individual product itself and not just the organization. So we can't just get Environmental Choice approval ourselves and then decide where we put the Environmental Choice tick. All of our products have to go through rigorous assessment before they are awarded the Environmental Choice tick. So there are some other very good labels out there. It's important to note that they're often aligned with a specific program. As an example, the Declare label, which is a very good label, is typically aligned with the Living Building Challenge. Now, not all of the major manufacturers will have every eco label, so it's really important to understand the requirements of the eco labels and what program they sit within and which company has that eco label before you go ahead and specify it. We have had occasions in the past where an eco label has been specified and none of the major manufacturers have that label, so it becomes very difficult for the paint product on that project to be to be located and used, and it's really difficult to unwind a project if an eco label that's not widely used is specified on a project. So really important that you note the requirements of any eco label. As previously mentioned, almost always environmental choice is the eco label that's required here in New Zealand. Again, a brief overview of carbon and EPDs, or environmental product declarations. It's another really big area that we could spend a week on. And our intention here is just to give a very, very brief overview of the focus in the industry. And we'll likely put out a full webinar on this area early next year. So the drive continues in the industry on all environmental and sustainability factors, with carbon reduction now, of course, a significant focus for the major manufacturers. It's important to note that certainly at Resene, and I'm sure that the other manufacturers as well, we're wide in our scope of works. We're sourcing raw materials globally. We're transporting them here, we're manufacturing here, and we have our distribution and sales channels within New Zealand. All of our supply chains being reviewed. We're certainly putting the focus on our raw material suppliers to review their businesses and what their focus is as well. And we'll focus on what makes a difference and is measurable, and we're going to be accurate and honest about what we're doing. Certainly not going to greenwash you with any information. I wouldn't expect any of the other major manufacturers would either. It's really important to understand or research any bold paint environmental or product performance claims in the industry. Really important that you research those. If they sound too good to be true, often they are. We do know that there's one or two bold claims out there at the moment around coatings absorbing pollutants. We understand that independent industry experts have pulled them apart as being misleading. Please do also be aware of product claims that are based on environmental conditions in other countries and not in New Zealand. We have far harsher environmental conditions here, particularly around our UV exposure, than most other countries. It's a very easy thing to do for someone to import paint product into New Zealand with the bold claims that are based on the other countries' environmental conditions, and often those bold claims don't stack up when the product's put into our environment here in New Zealand over a long-term basis. Now, the common one that gets thrown out is color fastness, and there are a number of claims out there around products being completely color fast and products won't fade or colors won't fade. So in our conditions here, that's certainly not our experience as the way decorative paint coatings perform. That's slightly off track there for the carbon and EPD slide, but it is worth touching on as well. Now, our EPD journey is well underway, and certainly is for the other major manufacturers as well. So environmental product declarations, and within that sits life cycle assessments. There are a number of organisations out there now that require EPDs, or you're not able to supply them. Certainly Kāinga Ora is one, and it's a fantastic progress that's been made in the industry. We have timeframes under the Kāinga Ora supply arrangements to make sure that we have our EPDs in place, and it's great to be on the journey with them. So on to New Zealand Green Building Council Greenstar and Homestar projects. What I want to do today is hopefully just clarify a few areas that typically cause some confusion. The reality is that the paint component of your Homestar and Greenstar project really should be one of the easiest sections to navigate. We'll start with Homestar, comprehensive and independent rating tool that measures health, warmth, and efficiency in new homes in New Zealand. Currently using version 4. Version 5 is about to be released and is currently being piloted. We'll just touch on version 4 and then we'll show you version 5 as well. Before I start, please do make sure that you are up to date with the current tools and guides for both Homestar and Greenstar. What I've got on screen here today is the way I understand the points. Fairly certain it's correct, but please do make sure that you're always up to date with the tools, guides, and the points on offer. So Homestar version 4 requires 50% or more of paint by volume to have a product declaration, which in this instance would be Environmental Choice New Zealand. We'll show you this a little bit further on, product declarations. Environmental Choice New Zealand products will always be waterborne and low VOC. Now this is really easy to achieve on your projects because most of your paint's going to be environmental choice when you're using the major paint manufacturers. And also typically you'd be well up over 90% of your paint product is environmental choice on your project. So the point scoring sits within sustainable materials for interior and exterior applied on site. 50% gives you 2 points of total volume, should I say. And healthy materials, interior applied on site, again, 50% of total volume will give you 1 point. There's also an area under responsible contracting where half a point is on offer if you utilized an approved applicator, and for Resene, it's a Resene Eco Decorator. And so total on offer is 3.5 points. Really important to note that there's no difference in paint requirements or points across the different levels of Homestar. So same number of points and same kind of specifications, which we'll show you as well. Homestar version 5 is currently being piloted with some minor changes from version 4. It's currently being piloted, as I mentioned, but is about to be released. Category headings have changed, and healthy materials now requires 80% of product by volume to be environmental choice. Again, this is easily achieved as you'll likely be up over that 90%. So just there, again, as I mentioned, 80% of total. Points have changed slightly, half a point. And under sustainable materials, 50% of total volume is 2 points. Now I've circled there a change that you do need to be aware of. So it's interior and exterior applied on site and in a prefabrication yard under sustainable materials. Prefabrication yard is going to cover off prefab and modular builds, which are increasing in popularity nowadays, and likely also to cover off some steelwork requirements as well. What I can tell you for prefab and modular builds is we're certainly having a number of those construction companies coming to us and asking us for specifications, and we will always be providing them where we can environmental choice products for those for their builds. So do check with them on the products they're using. If they're not using environmental choice, you need to be requesting that they do, and it may be that we're already helping them in the industry. And again, responsible contracting, half a point if a Resene Eco Decorator is utilised. On to Greenstar, which is for buildings and is an internationally recognised rating system for design, construction and operations of buildings, fit outs and communities. Two main ones are Greenstar Design and As Built and Greenstar Interiors. Now, Design and As Built is for new buildings, Interiors is for refurbs and fit outs. We'll start with Design and As Built, which requires 95% of paint product to have a product certification or be within TVOC limits. Now, TVOC is total volatile organic compound to achieve 1 point. Now, this area is the one area of confusion that I will touch on in a couple of slides just to clarify. An additional point also can be gained by exceeding Greenstar benchmarks using ultra-low VOC paint. So we've already shown you the ultra-low VOC products available, and you'll see there that 50% of your total volume is ultra-low VOC, which is below 5 grams per litre. You'll achieve an additional 1 point. Now, we suspect that this is an area that's not utilised enough on projects. If you've got an amount or a certain significant amount of plasterboard walls and ceilings, I would expect that you should be able to easily achieve the additional point and for exceeding Greenstar benchmarks. For Design and As Built, paint applied off-site is excluded and exterior paint is included in Credit 21 product sustainability value calculation. Now that's a complicated beast that I won't touch on. Just important to know that your exterior paint is included in Credit 21. On to Greenstar Interiors, which are refurb and fit outs. Again, requires 95% of paint product to have product certification or be within the TVOC limits. And on this one, for indoor air pollutants under Credit 12.1, you achieve 2 points. Same again for interiors, under innovation, exceeding Greenstar benchmarks using ultra-low VOC paint products. 50% of total volume is 1 point. And same again, paint applied off-site is excluded. So maximum total in interiors is 3 points currently. Just thought we'd throw this in again just to show you these products for exceeding Greenstar benchmarks with ultra low VOC. And as I've already mentioned, we suspect that most projects with a reasonable amount of plasterboard wall and ceiling areas could easily gain that additional point. Okay, we'll move on to some FAQs, and this is really the focus of today to clarify a couple of areas of confusion. Product certification and TVOC, as I mentioned, this is the main area of confusion. There are two methods for demonstrating that paint complies: product certification or laboratory testing. Now, this is a guidance note from Design and As Built tool. States very clearly two methods. Method A, product certification, and I'll show you what a product certification is very shortly. This little word is commonly missed, or laboratory testing as option B. So what is product certification? It's our good friend environmental choice. If a paint product has environmental choice approval, it is acceptable on your project. VOC limits are not applicable because they're already met under the environmental choice approval system. Now, this is the area that causes the most confusion, because for option B, if our product didn't have environmental choice, laboratory testing has a table of VOC limits, table 13.1.1. The VOC limits in this table are only required to be referred to if a product does not have environmental choice certification. The VOC limits that you see there on screen are not the VOC limits for environmental choice approved paint products. As I mentioned, their VOC level requirements are contained within the environmental choice approval system. So this, unfortunately, this table gets issued out into the industry and is mistakenly taken as VOC limits for all paint products to be used on a project. So I'll say again, and I repeat myself on purpose, if your paint product has environmental choice approval, it is perfectly acceptable to use, and you should not be referring to the VOC limits in this table. So VOC test procedures and certificates, another couple of areas that can cause some confusion. Test procedures, Resene and others work within the Australian Paint Approval Scheme, APAS or APAS, depending on which country you're in, to provide VOC levels. VOC levels are by way of theoretical calculations. Now, when you're asked for a statement as to how, or the scheme that Resene works within, that's the statement that I've boxed out there for you that we will give you. It tells you very clearly that it's working within the Australian Paint Approval Scheme, which is perfectly acceptable. And we also cover off on the VOC summary sheet there, just the VOC levels of each product alphabetically. That's just the start of the table, and will tell you whether a product has environmental choice approval or not. Our product data sheets also will include the environmental choice tick on the product data sheet as well. So for VOC testing, theoretical VOC calculations are acceptable. And again, from the guidance note there, we've boxed that out. Where TVOC content for the individual items is known, a theoretical calculation based on the subtotal of the known VOC values of the product's raw material components is acceptable. We receive the VOC content of the components and raw materials from our raw material suppliers, and once we have them, we're able to do a calculation ourselves and give you the VOC levels of the finished paint-based product. When I say base paint product, when we tint our products, we then add in colorants or tinters. At Resene, our colorants are 0 VOC, so when we tint any color, it does not change the VOC level of the finished paint product. And test certificates. Data sheets with VOC information on are acceptable. Again, from the guidance note boxed out there, for paints, a safety data sheet that includes VOC information is also an acceptable test certificate. On occasion, we're asked for detailed testing certificates and processes. It's not required. It states very clearly there that a paint manufacturer's data sheet with VOC information on is acceptable. If you do get requests for VOC testing procedures or information certificates and the like, please do point those that are requesting it to us, and we're more than happy to clarify that for you and them. The team at New Zealand Green Building Council will also happily clarify that as well. So resources, where can you find all of this information? Well, at Resene, we have it all located in one spot, and that's of course on our website. It's very easy to find. Just snip that out there, drop into specifiers, under environment tab, and then you'll see a Green Building Council Greenstar Homestar tab, and that'll take you to one page that has every piece of information or resource that you need, whether it's there or a link to another location. This is just the start of the page, but it's all there in one location, and this is the only place you need to go if you're working within a Resene specification to find information. We'll have the environmental choice main certificate there, and all the other links to the product safety data sheets as well, and anything else that you need. So just a quick Greenstar cheat sheet. As mentioned, interior paint, environmental choice, 95% of volume, which does leave some room for some solvent-based paint if needed. 5% can be quite a handy little tolerance percentage if you do require some solvent-based paint products. Interior paint applied on-site only. Paint applied off-site is excluded. Design and as-built, exterior paint is included in Credit 21, the product sustainability value calculation. Gaining that additional point using ultra-low VOC products isn't difficult. And please do not refer to the VOC levels in table 13.1.1 if a product has Environmental Choice New Zealand approval. No VOC test certificates required. Data sheets with VOC information are acceptable. And as mentioned, your preferred manufacturer's website should have all the resources required. Please do talk to your paint rep or the team at New Zealand Green Building Council, the technical team there. We're all happy to help and guide you in the right direction if you have any queries. And if you don't have a GSAP or a Greenstar accredited professional in your office, it's certainly worth having someone undertake the training, as it will certainly help you to navigate through your Greenstar projects. So specifying Homestar and Greenstar. Homestar specifications are typically the same as any standard new residential specification nowadays, and any specification platform can be used. We've just thrown in there on the right the main ones. Certainly MasterSpec by far and away puts the most specifications into the market. Resene TechSpec as well, our in-house one, and SmartSpec as well. Typically, all waterborne coatings specified are generally going to be environmental choice when using the main manufacturers nowadays. Some areas to be aware of that may require a little bit of consideration. Your wet areas where we specify solvent-based pigmented sealers. We do have options where we can change that out, but often you're within your total volume requirements or your tolerance zones to be able to use those pigmented sealers. We'll always specify the best product or system that we can, and we are able to modify it, but first up, we're always going to specify the best system that we can. Timber floors as well, joinery and trim. On occasion, I've had solvent-based polyurethanes. Many years we've had environmental choice waterborne polyurethanes available, so very easy to change them out if needed. Interior steelwork, not a huge area for residential, but certainly worth considering or noting if you have had some 2-pack products specified, easily changed out. And garage floor, 2-pack epoxies. Now, this is an area that you can utilize the VOC limits on the TVOC table in table 13.1.1 for laboratory testing. If your 2-pack epoxy does not have environmental choice, and often they don't because there's a component in the hardener that doesn't sit within the environmental choice program, a product like Resene Aquapoxy would fall into this category. It's low VOC and a waterborne 2-pack epoxy, but does not have environmental choice approval. It has a VOC content level of 66 grams per litre. On the table 13.1.1, the maximum total for 1 and 2 pack epoxy floor coatings is 140 grams per litre. So utilising laboratory testing or option B for a 2 pack waterborne epoxy, you would be certainly well within your rights to use it, and it's acceptable on that project because it does fall within those VOC limit levels on the table. And again, responsible contracting, 0.5 point, Resene Eco Decorator. Reminder that specifications and points will be the same across all Homestar ratings 6 to 10, so no difference in specifications and no difference in products, no difference in points. Greenstar specifications will be very similar to standard specifications as well, with maybe the exception of 1 or 2 products. Again, any specification platform can be used. As mentioned, Greenstar has a minimum of 95% products by volume need to be environmental choice or have product declaration. Again, most of your waterborne products now through the main manufacturers will fall within environmental choice. Some areas to be aware of again for your volume calculations: wet areas again, solvent-based pigmented sealers; timber floors again, solvent-based polyurethanes. Very easy for us to specify waterborne polyurethanes. Interior steelwork, 2-pack protective coatings is more of an issue on commercial jobs, so certainly worth considering. We do have some waterborne options. Again, your concrete floors, I've just covered that, 2-pack epoxies, where your TVOC limits can be utilised for option B, laboratory testing. And another area that is certainly going to need some consideration is your intumescent coatings for steel. There are low VOC options now available, so you certainly would want to be working with your preferred supplier or manufacturer to make sure you have your intumescent coating specification right. And again, exceeding Greenstar benchmarks, significant areas of plasterboard will allow you to use ultra-low VOC products and gain that additional point. There's a little point I probably missed out earlier, is typically your ultra-low VOC products are for your plasterboard type areas, so your sealers and your low sheen wallboard paint products are typically where you'll see your ultra-low VOC products. And as mentioned, do involve your preferred paint representative to cast their eye over your specifications. You may have it correct in the first instance, or there may be 1 or 2 modifications that we can suggest. As mentioned, any spec platform can be used. However, MasterSpec does provide the most specs into the market by far and away. Just snipped out there on the right the Resene sections, but hard to snip everything out, so it's a bit long to put everyone's products in there. MasterSpec does provide options for specifying environmental sections. These sections are generic environmental sections, but typically will have mainly waterborne environmental choice options. You can use for your interiors MasterSpec 6721, the standard section, or 6721 RE, the environmental section. You don't have to specify on Homestar or Greenstar projects under the environmental area. You certainly can, and you'll meet your requirements, but nowadays with the advent and the wide range of environmental choice products, you can actually use the standard sections as well. It's just you need to be aware of what you're specifying, and this is where we can assist as you're traveling through putting your spec together. As mentioned, we are updating the interior section to show ultra-low VOC options to make it easy. We're aware that we'd overlooked this in the past, and so we're going to change that around when you are working through the environmental sections, and we may well put that in the standard section as well, as there's no real reason why we shouldn't. Showing really clearly your ultra-low VOC options that you can pull out. And again, repeating myself, do contact your preferred paint representative to have them assist. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope that's covered off a few areas for you. under Homestar and Greenstar, and maybe clarified those couple of areas of confusion that do pop up on occasion. If you do have any queries at any time, feel free to contact us here at Resene, or indeed your preferred manufacturer. We're all here to help. And as mentioned as well, the team at New Zealand Green Building Council are more than happy to assist with any queries that you have as well. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Resene webinar. Bye for now.